Good evening, and welcome to What's Your Story? I'm your host, James Ransom Reed, Jr. I'm sure that many of you out there in television land have heard the expression, little things mean a lot. And if you've been the recipient of a small act of kindness, or a smile, or someone holding a door for you, or someone just acknowledging your presence, you know that little things mean a lot. In our turbulent world today, we seldom stop and appreciate and look at the things that people do every day that make our lives just a little bit better. They do it with a nod, they do it with a wink, they do it by helping us when disasters strike. Little things mean a lot. The story we're going to talk about tonight has to do with this rock, and it rhymes with little things mean a lot. Several months ago, I got out of my car and I saw this rock on the curb. And I looked at it, it looked pretty, and I just left it and went about my business. And an hour or so later, I came back and the rock was still there. And I picked it up and looked at it, and I thought it's quite pretty, painted very lovely. And I looked on the back and it said Connecticut Rocks. And I thought to myself, wow, there's a story here. Always looking for someone to tell me their story. Little things mean a lot. You're going to enjoy this episode, and you're going to have a great time with my very special guest today. My guest is Kelly Soro. She is the founder and maintainer of the Facebook page, Connecticut Rocks. Before these two episodes are over, part 1 and part 2, you're going to know that there are still people in this world trying to make of this old world a new world through simple acts of kindness. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you, James.
Oh, so good to have you here. You know, why don't we begin by you telling the audience a little bit about yourself, your background. Why don't we, where were you born?
I was born in Rockville Hospital, Vernon, Connecticut.
Rockville?
Yes, when there was a maternity ward.
There's no longer one?
No.
Oh,
sir.
My goodness. No more babies born in Rockville?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
But then when I was, I apologize.
No, go ahead, yes.
When I was about 3, almost 4 years old, my parents moved me down to Daytona Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
And I lived there for 17 years and went through that education system. And then I moved back up here in 2008 to be with my family.
Now, I understand that when you were in Daytona Beach, you went to a high school where you could look out the window and see what?
The ocean, basically, yes.
Is that right?
It is, and I'll tell you, it doesn't help when you're a senior because you have bad senioritis. You want to get out there and skip school every day.
You want to get out of there, you could actually see the water.
Yes, from some classrooms.
Wow. So now you had a school mascot. Why don't you tell us about that mascot?
So I went to Seabreeze High, and our mascot...
Whoa, Seabreeze.
Yes.
And that's why the school was named Seabreeze.
Possibly, I couldn't tell you.
All right, okay.
But yes, we were the Seabreeze Sand Crabs.
The Seabreeze Sand Crabs.
Yes.
Tell people what a sand crab is. People may not know.
Well, and that's the thing. The mascot itself looks like a regular crab, but a sand crab is completely different from a regular crab. A sand crab actually lives in the sand on the beach, and oftentimes when you're down there and the water flows up, you will see a little bubble, and you'll know that something's down there. And we would dig down with our hands and pull them up, and you'd get these little sand crabs in your hand. They don't have these. They look more like I guess like a shrimp kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but they live in the sand, and so the mascot isn't really reflective of what an actual sand crab is, I don't think. But.
So now there was an incident at your high school. Tell our audience what happened.
So senior pranks are often played between rival schools, and our rival school did play a prank on us one year, and they got us good. They dumped buckets and buckets of crabs, live crabs, into the hallways of the school. And one morning, I think they did it over a weekend, the weekend that we play our final game, and then we came to school on Monday morning, or the administrators opened and said, well, we can't open the school today. We got a little crab problem. And then the joke was always, got crabs, So.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me something. When you graduated, right? Mm-hmm. Or the senior prom, did you go to your senior prom?
I did. I didn't stay long.
What was the class, what was the song back then? Do you remember?
You know what? I think it was a Nickelback song.
All right.
Yeah, it was, I think it was that picture one.
Okay, go ahead.
I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, I think that was our song.
So were you boogieing in high school, or what did you do?
Oh, I was a hot mess. I wasn't a very good girl.
Oh.
I partied a lot. I lived in Daytona Beach.
You give your parents a rough time, didn't you?
Yes, but I graduated.
There you go. There you go.
And have since gone to college, so I think I did okay.
You think yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So at what age did you come back to Connecticut?
I think I was 19.
And where did your family settle?
At the time, my father owned a home in Vernon, Connecticut for over 30 years. And so while we lived down in Florida, he rented that out. And it helped to pay for both the mortgage there and the mortgage in Florida, right?
Sure.
He had somebody who was living there and helped maintain the property for many years. And then my parents divorced a week before I started high school. So that was a little rough transition for me.
Yeah.
But my father moved back up to the house up here. So in 2008, I moved back up here to go to college and to help my father, who was in remission from cancer.
Oh, great, great. Kelly, we're going to do a quick survey here. How many of you out there have found Connecticut rock? Come on, let me see. A show of hands. Come on. Oh, my goodness gracious. Look at all of you who have a Connecticut rock. Now, what did you do with your rocks while we're watching this show? Okay. All right. Kelly, as I look at you, I don't mean any disrespect at all. Obviously not to my guests. But I see from my notes in interviewing you that you have 5 children.
Yes.
You look like you're 12 years old.
Well, thank you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, good gracious, I would never have guessed that.
Well, I do have to elaborate a little bit. The oldest 3 I can't take full credit for.
Okay.
I didn't birth them, but I've been raising them for over 10 years now. So
Well, you still,
I consider them my children.
That's right. If you raise them, they're yours.
Yeah, I don't call them my stepchildren. They're my children.
All right, well, let's do what we're supposed to do here before we get into the guts of the Connecticut rocks.
All right.
Your husband's Nicholas, correct?
Correct. We call him Nick.
All right. Give a shout out to Nick, because he's going to want to see you say it to him.
Hi, honey.
There you go. Now we got Nick the third, right?
Nicholas the third is the oldest. Yes, he's 19.
Tell us about Nicholas the third, because Nicholas wants equal time.
Oh, yes.
So go ahead.
Well, on his 18th birthday, he wanted to do something very meaningful, and so we went out, and he wanted to go to the mall. And I said, well, that doesn't seem like something you do when you're 18,
Yes.
But when we were in the mall, he found a tattoo shop. I didn't really want him to get it done at the mall, but he wanted to get a tattoo.
Yeah.
My husband, who is also free of tattoos at the time, decided with him, we'll get one together, because the one that he was getting was meaningful. It was the Roman numeral 3 on him, because he is Nicholas III.
He's the third, yes.
And my husband said that at the same spot he will get the Roman numeral 2. And my father-in-law, next time we see him in Tennessee, I'm dragging him to the tattoo parlor so he can get Roman numeral 1.
Did his father-in-law get it?
No.
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 Dad said, not happening.
Yeah, exactly. He says, I'm not doing that.
Not gonna happen. All right.
But Nicholas is also the very first of the lineage to graduate high school the traditional way. So we are very proud of him. That was one of his goals. So.
Attaboy, Nick.
Yeah.
All right, well, why don't you tell us about Gracie? I think Gracie's next in line, right?
Yeah, Gracie's a senior. at the same high school. She is cheer captain, and she's extremely scholarly. She has tons and tons of college acceptance letters coming in.
Really?
Oh yeah, she's amazing. She's super smart and beautiful, and there's no way around it. She's just an all-around all-star.
Gracie.
Yes.
Shout out to the Gracie. All right, so after Gracie, there's Hunter.
Hunter is 15. He plays football for the high school. And so that's nice. I have to be at all the games because Hunter's playing and Gracie's cheering. So
Okay.
yeah,
here
so we
go.
have to go to support them. But Hunter he's the best. He's stuck right in the middle, but he's just the most loving individual I've ever met. He's so calm, but he's gotten so big and burly. He's almost the same size as my husband. So if I have my back turned and he walks past me, I'll sometimes think he's my husband because he's gotten so big now, and he's only 15. It drives me crazy. He's growing into his body and becoming more mature, and it's happening way too quickly because when I met him, he was only 4.5. So
Now he man.
yes, no, he's a man.
What about Owen? What's going on with Owen?
Owen is my first biological.
Okay.
He's 9, 4th grade. He and his little brother and his older brother all play football. So, of course, they play for the town. The 2 little guys play for the town, and Hunter plays for the high school. But Owen is very bright. He's very intelligent. Actually, just got accepted in the Gifted and Talented program. I'm so proud of him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Attaboy, O.
Yeah.
All right. And I think the last one is Oliver.
Yes.
And
Oliver.
what's going on with Oliver?
Oh, Oliver. Oliver is 6. He is in 1st grade, and he is super sweet and loving and just wants all the attention in the world. And you have to imagine how hard that is for him because there's so many other people who need attention. So we're all very understanding when it comes to his needs for attention, because
Sure.
it's hard when you're the tiny one.
Yeah.
And he is quite a handful, but we love him so much. He'll always be my little baby.
It'd always be the baby.
I don't care how big he is. He's still my baby.
Okay. Now, why don't you tell our audience what it is, not necessarily with the Connecticut Rocks, but about what you're doing right now professionally. What's going on with you professionally right now?
Okay. So I went to Manchester Community College when I moved up here and started my college career not knowing what I was doing. I was just taking classes and got an associate's degree in general education.
Okay.
Ironically, the last class that I had to take just to get 3 credits, I could choose whatever I wanted. It was what do they call it? Option. I don't know. I forget. But anyways, I'd go to take it, and I had to choose anything I wanted. And I decided, since I had just become pregnant, I wanted to take early childhood education, introduction to it.
Sure.
And it really sparked my interest. It intrigued me. I thought, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And I asked my dad. He said, when you were younger, you always wanted to be a teacher. So I currently have my bachelor's degree from Goodwin University, and I am working with families pregnant mothers or children all the way up to the age of 5. I work with the family and the child to help them reach goals in life, reach educational goals, family goals, prepare their child for kindergarten or any child care facility they might be bringing their child to within those 5 years, transitioning from pregnancy to infancy, to motherhood, postpartum, all of that, helping them through all of that and teaching them about child development, parenting education techniques, positive parenting.
So do you have like a list of clients that you work from, or?
Oh yes, I have a caseload.
You have a caseload?
All over Tallinn County.
All over, wow.
Yes.
So at present, without names, obviously,
Right.
how many clients do you have?
Well, my colleague and I, we run program for Tallinn County, and so we have 16 for 3 to 5, and then 6 spots open for under 5, or under 3, I'm sorry.
For those of us who are not familiar with that kind of help that's going on, which is, I believe, vital and critical to sustaining a family and holding it together and keeping it together, how would you assess, what would you say is one of the major causal factors for the disruption of the families? What do you find? Is it what, lack of education? Is it drugs? Is it alcohol? What is it family disruption? Are there mental issues, psychological issues? What are the kinds of things that you run into repeatedly that you have to deal with?
I've seen all of that, everything in which you've listed. Yes, absolutely. I work with families who are on the poverty level or below the poverty level.
Yes.
Many times they're struggling financially, could be living off the state or just have a part-time job.
Yes.
So they have many struggles, not just in the home, but outside of the home and in general. So part of my job is to link them to resources within their community that can help them to be more successful.
Are there shrinking resources available, or?
I would say ever growing.
Ever growing, which is an indication that people are generous and want to help. Would you say that's true?
For most, I would hope so, yes.
Yeah.
And I've seen more programs from the Woodworks, through COVID, trying to help families in need, and not just during COVID, but just in general, since I've started this job. And I knew I wanted to work with the entire family because the family system is so important to a child's development. They are their first and most important teachers, the family. So
Yes.
I noticed that through my schooling and through working in a classroom, and then I was a family liaison for a public school.
Yes.
And I noticed my favorite time was reconnecting with the family, in the morning, oh, they finally used the potty, or, and then in the afternoon, oh, this is what happened today, this. And I noticed, and that was my favorite thing, because then they have to extend that learning at home to keep it going. And because they're only with us for so long in the classroom, and they go
Yes.
home. And if you're not continuing that at home, so developing a relationship with the family is so important for the child's development. And so for me, I wanted to work with the families. So this is I love this job so much. I get to meet them where they're at, and it's wonderful. I get to help them. I feel at the end of the day, if the families are grateful for what I've done, they tell me. And it feels like a job that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Fulfilling and just enriching. Like, it makes me feel like I'm making a difference.
You know what? Let me take this opportunity to thank you and all the yous out there doing that kind of work, trying to hold a family together and trying to help people through difficult circumstances. Thank you for what you're doing out there.
And thank you to everybody out there who's doing it as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we did with the first part of this show, the first interview, is give people an insight into you, who you were, your family, and that sort of thing. And we're going to talk about the Connecticut Rocks now, because you are the creator and administrator of the Connecticut Rocks Facebook page.
Correct.
How did that come into being? What is that all about?
Well, I cannot take credit for the original concept of the painting of the rocks and hiding them. That is the Kindness Rocks project is the overall umbrella.
Yes.
But there have been pages created in cities or states or even counties. Anybody can do it. And so I saw an opportunity back in April 2017, I believe, about 5 years ago.
Yes.
That we didn't have a CT Rocks in Connecticut, so I created the page, and ever since then, it's just grown exponentially.
So what is the point of me finding this on a curb when just there? What is the person trying to say to me?
Well, let me ask you, how did you feel when you found it?
I felt good.
Okay.
I thought it was beautiful.
I think that's the whole point. The whole point is to feel noticed or to feel happy in that moment. You might be having a terrible day, and then you find a rock that you weren't expecting to find. Or perhaps you're going to look for rocks at a park, and you actually find them, and you don't know what's going to be on it. And so it just brings joy. Sometimes there's inspirational quotes. Sometimes they spread awareness. So they're just wonderful. Some people are so artistic, so creative, and props to them to having the time to paint and hide them and post them. It's wonderful to see how many people have gotten involved.
Like you asked me, what did I feel, excuse me, when I saw that? A bunch of things went through my mind, First of all, the fear, don't pick it up.
Confusion.
Don't pick it up,
Right.
Don't touch it. Because we were in the height of COVID at
Correct.
that point in time. Don't pick it up, leave it alone, But then after I got it home and I sat down and I looked at it, I thought to myself, these are the kinds of everyday wonderful things that people do to make all of our lives just a little bit brighter and to instill a spark of light where there's so much darkness. Would you concur with that?
Absolutely. And the act of painting it too.
Yes.
It
It must be therapeutic.
For some it is, yes. And then I've seen it for families as a time to get together with their children and express creativity. And then their children love to hide them, and then while they're out hiding, they might find one themselves. So it's really amazing. And they've spread so far, they, like I said, I've seen teachers use them in classrooms actually.
As teaching tools.
Yes, to bring like a social studies awareness kind of thing.
Wow.
Of where they can come from. They've reached out to all the individual states or,
Okay.
or how social media works. So it's really interesting to see how people have taken this concept and just done their own thing.
Well, don't go away because we're going to do a second show
Okay.
and get deeper into the Connecticut rocks and the idea behind it.
Sure.
That's all the time we have for this episode of What's Your Story? I want to thank my guest, Kelly Sorrow, for being here. This is part 1. We're going to do part 2, and you'll be able to check that out too. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time, I'm your host, James Ransom Reed, Jr. Good night.
The water's warm at Jaws Pond, and we're stocked full of treasures. Big or small, we buy it all. We buy and sell fast rides, power tools, vintage guitars, and so much more. Walk the plank in style with our fine jewelry, diamonds, and watches. Plus, we have a huge selection of the latest video games, including the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Jaws Pond, conveniently located on Meriden Waterbury Turnpike in Southington and West Main Street in New Britain.